After gaining knowledge about SAP HANA installation and SAP HANA post installation procedures, it is very important for us to understand which are the SAP HANA admin tools available and how do we use them for administration and monitoring activities on SAP HANA database. First, let us start with the tool SAP HANA Studio. What is this SAP HANA Studio? In simple words, it is a standalone tool available for Windows and Linux operating systems. That means it is installable only on Windows and Linux OS. It is not supported on any other operating systems as of now. We have the executables, that is HTTP setup, which will be used for installing HANA Studio on Windows. And similarly, we have an installer to install it on Linux operating system as well. And in technical terms, SAP HANA Studio is the Eclipse based work environment for SAP HANA. It offers Eclipse Open IDE. By IDE, we mean integrated development environment. So it offers Open IDE based developer environment for SAP HANA. Basically, it integrates different tools in an unified environment. It offers a big ecosystem of tools and it has various flexibilities like extensibility, multi-platform, broad adoption, varied options are available with this HANA Studio. And it also offers tools and plugins for working with SAP HANA, and technically it connects through SQL connection through an SQL port to talk to SAP HANA database. And here, this picture is the view of the home page of HANA Studio. When we launch the HANA Studio after installing, we have to go to, if in case of Windows, we have to go to Windows, go to Programs, then choose SAP HANA. There we can launch the SAP HANA Studio. As soon as we launch SAP HANA Studio, we get this screen where we have different perspectives to choose. We have administration console, modular console, development console, and life cycle management console. These are the different perspectives available with SAP HANA Studio. There are some more perspectives available, which I will show it directly in the SAP HANA Studio tool. So by tools and plugins, I basically mean that there are certain basic components for design time SAP HANA repository interaction and access to runtime objects in SAP HANA database catalog is possible through the studio. So we can talk to design time and runtime objects present in the database directly through HANA Studio. I'll explain you how to do that when I explain how the tool actually works. Studio tool offers different environments. As I said, it offers administration console, it offers modular perspective, development perspective, lifecycle management for different activities, and it also offers user management possibilities also where we can set up security measures in the authentication part. Also, we can create users, roles, privileges. So we can play around with users who are required for modeling activities or development activities or day-to-day monitoring activities or for executing backups or for tracing. There are different types of system roles available which can be assigned, and also using these system roles we can build a custom role for any user creation. So all these possibilities are possible with SAP HANA Studio. And it also offers options for operation of the SAP HANA database, operations like start stop services, restart service, and options for monitoring the system, monitoring different services, and for performing configuration settings where we can custom config the SAP HANA database with different values as we want. And also it offers options for deploying new contents, new delivery units, new packages, and Well, within the lifecycle management, again, we have different options where we can connect the HANA system to an SLT system, or where we can also do HTTP rename, or we can create multiple nodes for the system. So all these possibilities are possible with SAP HANA Studio directly. And from a developer's point of view, we can use the HANA Studio to create content such as model views and stored procedures. And these development artifacts are stored in the repository, which is a part of the SAP HANA database. So basically, we can talk to HANA repository, which is present in the database directly through HANA Studio, and can do development activities or modeling activities on top of it. And also admin activities where we do day-to-day administration and monitoring of the HANA database, and under lifecycle management again, where we customize the HANA database to talk to an SLT system, or also we can connect the HANA database to SLD, system landscape directory. As I said, do renaming option, create a multiple node system. There are various options available. Let's move on to understand them. Well, this picture shows different perspectives that we can choose from the HANA Studio. As explained in my previous slide, we have modular perspective, development perspective, debug perspective, admin perspective, and these are the additional perspectives we have apart from these four. Even these four are included in this. These are the total perspective set that we have within the HANA Studio. And this is how we navigate to any of the perspectives, and also we can set the quick access to navigate to any perspective. Now let us study about what are these main perspectives that we use in day-to-day life of HANA database. Firstly, it is modular perspective here. The SAP HANA modular perspective within the HANA Studio offers views and menu options that enable us to define our own analytical model. For example, it offers a platform to create attribute, analytic, and calculation views of SAP HANA data. So basically, within the Eclipse perspective, it offers targeting power users for content design, and it offers graphical information model design environment for HANA optimized models. Again, under that, where we create attribute, analytic, or the calculation views, and it offers platform for development of advanced calculation models such as SQL, SQL script based, and use of AFL, which is application function library, and SQL script based stored procedures. So SAP HANA information models are optimized HANA views for the HANA engine and calculation operators. And as I explained earlier, the three views like attribute, analytic, calculation views are the three HANA views that we have. Explaining about each view, firstly, attribute view. It is the master data modeling view, and within that we have the master data tables which are joined together, which form the attribute views. And secondly, coming to analytic views, it represents an OLAP cube-like view. Basically, includes a data foundation based on a fact table with certain measures like key figures, and these attribute views are joined to the fact table in a star schema like dimensions, and it is used for calculation and aggregation purposes. And thirdly, the calculation view. This view performs complex calculations which are not possible with other views. It should have at least one measure, and basically it is defined as graphical or scripted view, scripted using SQL scripts. Basically, a modular perspective is used by the modeling architects who build the information models. Basically, they build these kinds of views and build models using these views. Now, moving on to development environment. Development environment, as stated here, it provides views and menu options that enable us to perform all the tasks relating to application development on SAP HANA Access. Some examples are listed here. Say where we can manage application development projects, display content of application packages, and browse to the SAP HANA repository as well. So basically, using the development environment, um, where it utilizes standard Eclipse projects, we can build HANA specific projects, general SAP projects, and even third party projects as well. So, this development environment is, in simple words, used for building projects, could be general SAP or HANA specific, even the third party projects. And these projects are linked to the HANA repository to fetch the contents of HANA where the project can be built upon. So, and further on, it enables all HANA related development scenarios and workflows. It is supporting all sorts of development artifacts necessary for building, could be an HANA application, and thus covering development, testing, debugging, supportability, and lifecycle management. Mm, It comes integrated into standard Eclipse IDE. And here the target persona would be like HANA application developer, including content development scenarios, which includes SQL script stored procedure development as well. So to summarize, development perspective is used for developing projects by consuming the contents present in the SAP HANA repository. So we can build HANA applications and applications relating to SAP HANA Access as well. Web applications again. Access points to web applications. Next, moving on to debug perspective. As stated here, debug perspective provides views and menu options that help us to test our applications. For example, to view the source code, monitor or modify variables, and set breakpoints. So this debug perspective, in simple words, offers debug capabilities for HANA access procedure that is developed using the development perspective. So once the development perspective is used for developing any sort of access procedure, those will be debugged here using the debug perspectives. So debug SAP HANA server-side JavaScript with the SAP HANA tools plugins for Eclipse are available as of release 740, I would say. This debug option is not enabled by default but must be enabled manually. For this, we have to enable the configuration within the access engine.ini. So for this, we have to navigate to HANA Studio configuration tab, open the access engine.ini, open the debugger section. There, for the parameter enabled, we have to set the value true. Then from then on, we can use the debug perspective for debugging the access procedures. Now let's move on to understand the administration console perspective. As stated here, it provides views that enable us to perform all sorts of administrative tasks on SAP HANA instance, that is SAP HANA database. So using this administration console, we can do administration and monitoring activities, and also we can do post installation customizations, and also build or I would say deploy new applications on top of SAP HANA database server. And also it offers options for data provisioning and connecting to non-SAP sources, where the contents of non-SAP system can be used as if they are the contents of SAP HANA database itself. And additionally, as I said, using the lifecycle management, we can do a lot of customizations again. Now let's move to understand how HANA Studio is used with respect to different perspectives. Well, I have launched the HANA Studio and I've already connected to a HANA database, which is HAN with the user system. And I can navigate to admin console directly here. Right click on the system and choose administration. And as soon as I log into admin console, I will be navigated to overview tab where I can see general information about the database, about its operational status, start time, whether it is a distributed system, and build version, which platform, and also some idea about used memory, used disks, and used CPUs. And also it shows information about any alerts generated. So likewise, we have different tabs under the admin console, and landscape services here shows the status of different services, that is different components of the SAP HANA database. And also it offers various options here which are used for multi-nodes and uh, table partitioning and system replication case of HDR, and various options like alerts, performances, volume monitoring. And this is the configuration tab where we do the post customization activities, and system information where we have a set of SQLs already loaded for monitoring purposes. We can just launch these SQLs and get the information needed, and diagnosis files, which are the traces generated regularly, which can be monitored, and trace configuration tab. Well, this is a basic idea about the admin console. And right clicking on the system again, you can see we have an option to start, stop, restart. We can go to SQL Console, and yes, we can do backup, recovery, and this is the life cycle management, as I said, where we can do customizations like HTTP rename, HTTP add host, and connection to SLD system, and we can do HANA updates and deploy standalone applications on HANA. And also these two are used for monitoring purposes. So there are varied options available in admin console. These are some of them. And on the left side, you can see different names like backup, catalog, content, provisioning, and security. What are these? Backup is an option where you can configure the backup. You can just click on this to schedule a backup. You can just click here where it will schedule a backup. Also take a storage snapshot, which is similar to backup, but it happens at the storage level. And yeah, clicking on this, double clicking on this would take us to a catalog called backup catalog, where you can see the history of backups, also check the running backup, and also view the log files of the backup. And next is catalog. Catalog contains all schemas. I would repeat, all schemas that include the respective column and row tables. While some schemas exist per default with the installation, others, and others can be created by users respectively based on the need of the project. Next is content. Content folder holds packages in which development and modeling takes place. Now let me open these two. First, let me show you catalog. Well, these are the schemas, standard schemas, which are available with the installation. And we can create new schemas which will be displayed here again. If I have to open one of the standard schemas, Sysbik is one of the standard schemas. You can see schema will have column views, functions, indexes, procedures, sequences, synonyms, tables, triggers, views. For example, if you want to see the contents of any table, or see the structure of any table, you can just navigate to any table under this, right click on it, and you can display the content or the structure there. While loading the tables would take some time, let me move on to the next one. Let me open the content. directory, and here you see the standard packages which are delivered with the standard installation. We have SAP system local, and these are the sub packages of these packages. Here we have the development and modeling artifacts stored. Okay, now let's move on to provisioning tab. Provisioning relates to the functionality of smart data access. So as I said, we can configure a connection to non-SAP systems where we can use the contents of this non-SAP system as the original contents of the HANA database itself. So this smart data access configuration contains remote sources and proxy tables which are used by the HANA database, considering it as the original database tables. They are regarded as the proxy tables. You can see the remote sources if any configured under this. Now let's move on to security tab. Security folder hosts users and roles which are present in the database. And it also lists other security settings which can be maintained here. So if I navigate to users or roles, you can see the standard set of rules and roles created. These are the standard users: sys systems, sys AFL, sys data prow, sys EPM, sys repo, sys statistics, and these are the standard roles available. Some of it are, well, all of them are regarded as the standard system roles. And this is the security tab where you can do the security settings, like you can enable the audit policies as you want, do the setting for auditing and set up password policies as per the requirements, and enable data volume encryption for data safety. So this was about the admin console and knowing about the options which are possible here. Now let's move on to understand other perspectives. This is the option which was shown in the pic in the presentation, where we can navigate to any perspective that we want. So this is the fast, or other words it is called as quick access navigator tool, where you can choose any perspective of your choice like debug, Java browsing, and various other perspectives which are available. So if you choose any perspective, for example, you will be navigated to that perspective, and additionally you will see this particular perspective being a part of the quick access here. So any perspective that you access from here will be selected here for quick access from next time onwards. So next time when you log into HANA Studio, you can directly access the plugin development by clicking on this. For example, in my previous tries, I add open modeler perspective and lifecycle management perspective. So these two are saved here for quick access. And if I have to navigate to HANA modeler, this is how I do it. Just click on it, I will be taken to the modeler perspective. And similarly to the lifecycle management perspective. Well, as I explained the admin console there, it offers options for start, stop, configuring, managing user and authorizations. You can do monitoring activities using the monitoring feature. And yes, it basically targets DB and system administrators, provides advanced administration and monitoring features. And as I explained, it offers backup and recovery options for lifecycle management, where we can do post system customizations and user management, authentication, authorization possibilities. You can enable logging, tracing, or do the monitoring, And yeah, this is how you open the admin console from the home page. Just click on it, you will be taken to the admin console page. And this is the systems view bar where you can right click, add a system, provide the system information and the user information connecting, and then from there you are good to go. Just double click on it or use this button where you can go to admin console or right click and choose administration, and you will be navigated to the admin console. And I've already explained about different directories present in the admin console: backup, catalog, content, provisioning, and security. And as explained, systems view for administration shows different options. After you right click on the system, you have options for uh, administration, system replication. You can open the security, go to backup recovery, lifecycle management, stop start, SQL console. So here we have some explanations like where it shows it provides status view of managed systems at glance, central access point for performing system specific administration monitoring activities. From the context menu, you can access a range of both system specific and object specific functions, and also you can add system open system perspectives to all these activities: stop start, backup recover, import export, catalog objects, also open SQL console, find a table, open table definition, contents. All these are possibilities under admin console. Now next, moving on to modular perspective. Now let me explain the modular perspective. I have already shown from the quick access how do we access the modular perspective. And once we log into the modular perspective where it shows different modeling options, I would say modeling tools. It offers wizards for creating graphical design HANA content objects as information models. That is basically creation of a package or attribute view, analytic view, calculation view. You can create analytic privilege as well, create a procedure or a decision table. And on this side, you can see you can activate the content, validate, activate, redeploy the content, import, export the content, migrate it, and change the ownership of the content, and change authorizing schema, that is the owner of the content. Schema is the owner of the content, which also can be changed from this option. So basically, it offers wizards for working with the content, HANA content, and it offers wizards for working with the data or working with the SQL console. So here you can set up certain options like set up delivery units to schema mapping, configure import server, manage preferences, and here you can work on the data where you can generate time data and also do data provisioning, that is the system replication. You can choose a system here and just directly work on it, work on the modeling option, and also choose the SQL console directly from here, and you can navigate to documentation. So this modular perspective offers a set of tools for different functionalities. So here it shows about creation of information models. Here it shows options for working on the content. Here it shows options for working on the data, some setup procedures, and finally the documentation about modular perspective. So that was about modular perspective from admin point of view. To be straight, we work on the admin console and the modeling perspective. All right, now let us move on to understand the second admin tool for administering the SAP HANA database. This tool is called as the STB SQL tool, which is the command line tool. So this command line tool can be used for administration and also for the monitoring activities. And it offers functionalities similar to HANA Studio. So as I explained with respect to HANA Studio, where we can do administration, monitoring, also uh, do the security settings part, and do the user management, role management, create privileges, and additionally work on the data provisioning. Um, Most of these functionalities is possible with STB SQL command line tool as well. So with respect to stating, it's a command line tool for entering and executing SQL statements, executing database procedures, and querying information about SAP HANA databases. And the features that it offers are uh, execute SQL statements, execute database procedures, request information about the database catalog, execute shell commands, execute commands, and yeah, you can see the overview of HTTP SQL call options with the help option there. And this is the command to login. You have to use the HTTP SQL command or the executable, and this comes as a part of the HANA client package. HANA client must be installed. This package comes as a part of the stack software that we have downloaded. We will have client directories under data units. So it is available for different OS platforms as explained in the post installation step. And after installing this, we get the STB executable, and it basically connects using a database user. We can directly provide the user here, or other option is we can use the user credentials present in the user store, which is the secure store for connecting to the database. With the option of using the user keys, we can use -u and the user key of the user present in the user store instead of giving the username and password in the command line. So basically, we can use the STB SQL and -n for connecting to the database, where we will give the database host, uh, we will give the colon, then the SQL port, that is 3 HANA instance number, and 15, which is the SQL port, and provide the user and password to connect. Now let us see how do we install the client package and how do we launch the HTTP SQL command line tool. Here I have navigated to the HTTP client package for the Linux operating system, that is Linux x86-64 platform. And under this you can see after listing we have the HTTP-inst installer. So launching this installer using the /HTTP-inst, we see that the client release is mentioned here, which is detected, and it chooses the default location as USR SAP HTTP client for the client package installation. I choose the default location, then it checks the installation and prepares the packages and installs the database client in this location. So this client will have the Python runtime libraries, product manifest, SQL DBC, report tools, DB API for Python, ODBC, JDBC, Helm client installer. So once the installation is done, you can view the log here. So now we can see the client installed in the location USR SAP STB client. So navigating under this, see this STB SQL is the command line HANA admin tool, and this is the executable for that. And this is the user store which we were talking about, storing the users as user keys and using them with the STB SQL command. Well, now I have logged into the STB SQL command line tool and it is connected to the database. This is how you can verify. And how did I log in? As I explained, this is the command that we use. Use the STB SQL executable with -n, provide the host name of the database server and the SQL port. SQL port format is 301 is the instance number and 15 is for the SQL port. Then -u system is the user, -p is for the password, and this is the password of the system user. Then After clicking enter, I'm connected to the database. Well, now that we have learned how to connect to the HTTP SQL command line tool for doing the administration activities, now let us understand what are the command line options available, some of the standard options. Here I have listed certain options and the meaning of these options. Slash S is used for displaying the system information. Slash question mark or slash help, or just use slash H for showing help on the slash commands, that is the internal slash commands which are possible with HTTP Slash Q or quit for quitting the HTTP command line console. Slash C is for connecting to the database, but since that we have already connected to the database, we don't have to use this option. And slash DI or disconnect for disconnecting from the database. Now I have launched slash S option in the HTTP command line. See, as I told you, it displays the system information where it shows the host and the SQL port, database, SID, user with which I've logged in, what is the version of the HANA, and the SQL DBC version, which is the client version, and some of the options like auto commit, whether it is on or not. We can disable the auto commit using the HTTP command line tool. So by default it is set to on. What is the locale used and what is the encoding for input used, just the UTF-8. Other options like for help slash h, where it will show all the possible commands slash commands that we can use and the meanings of each command. Like for example, as I told, auto commit can be kept on or off. You can use this option to switch on or off the auto commit option. And yeah, you can print, you can reset, and there are a lot of other options. You can list columns, list tables, users, schemas. Some of the internal slash commands are listed here. And yeah, as I told you, how do you connect using the -I for the instance number, -N for the host and the port, -U username, -P password, -U and the user key if you don't want to furnish all these details. And finally, if I want to disconnect from the database, I can just give slash DI and it shows the connection to the database is closed. Then finally, I plan to quit out of HTTP command line tool. I give slash Q. I'm out of it. Now giving you an example of one of the examples of creating an user within the HANA database using the HTTP command line tool. You can enter the command for creating the user in this way. Create user, give the username, say for example uh, training, and the password would be, I would mix uppercase and lowercase, and train 2014. Okay, so this creates a user. Let me verify. Go to HANA Studio, go to security users, and I say F5. Yes, see here we have the user created. And also you can add roles to this user, and when you don't want the user you can drop the user. You can use drop user training. Also do security settings for this user for a particular use. Drop user training, and here you go. Just right click, do a refresh. Don't have training user now. So likewise, you can use any SQL command that you have for doing the admin or the monitoring activities. You can enable tracing from here as well, and you can trigger backups. You can create the backup from this tool. So this STB SQL command line tool offers a lot of options for administration and monitoring activities. Now let us understand how to use the STB user store user keys for logging into the STB SQL command line tool. Here is the command with which I have created an user key by name default. And this is the syntax how I create this. Use the STB user store executable as the command, and set is the option to create. Give the user key name, which is the default, and give the host name along with the SQL port and the user for this user key and the password of the user. Okay, then click enter. So the user key default is now created. And how do I check this? Give HTTP user store with option list. You see that the user key is by default stored in this location in the dat file. And yes, key is default, and this is the env, that is the host, user is system. And if I want to log in to this user key or to the HTTP SQL command line tool using this user key, then I just give HTTP SQL hyphen capital U as the option and the user key name default. And here I am logged into the database, that is connected to the database now. So in case if I don't want to use system user, but I want to use some other user with limited authorization, then I have to create the appropriate user with the right authorizations needed and create another user key, say HTTP user store set. Say for example, I have created an user for backup activities. I give the user key as backup and give the credential like this, give the host and give the backup username and its password, and it is set. Again with list option we can check the key backup and we can connect to HTTP SQL using the user key backup, and using that I can trigger a backup, that is create a backup. Likewise, we can create different user keys for different activities so that we can limit the authorization. Maybe if I have to uh, run a backup as a background task using a cron on the server, then this kind of user with limited authorization for just triggering the backup would help. So that's how STB user store user key options come into picture and are beneficiary. So now that we have understood SAP HANA Studio and STB SQL command line tools for administrating and monitoring SAP HANA database, now let us move on to understand the third admin tool, which is called as the DBA Cockpit. This tool is ABAP based, that is application server ABAP system type based. It is possible to connect to HANA database and do the administration and monitoring activities from the ABAP, any ABAP system using the DBA Cockpit tool, that is using the DBA Cockpit transaction code. It's a transaction code within the ABAP system. And the right way of administering the HANA database is by using a system called SAP Solman. So this Solman system offers the monitoring, alerting, performance warehouse infrastructures. So this system stands right for setting up the connection to HANA database and monitoring the HANA database. So from definition point of view, it's a platform independent tool to monitor and administer HANA DB remotely. Could be from Solman. As I said, Solman offers different infrastructures for monitoring, alerting, and also doing the performance analysis. So the right way of using DBA Cockpit tool is through the Solman system. No doubt you can use any ABAP system, or if we have installed any solutions on top of HANA database like NetWeaver or a BW solution or any business suite solutions which has a ABAP type obviously. So using the DBA cockpit transaction code, we can monitor the HANA database. So how do we integrate SAP HANA as a remote database? Let us consider SAP Solvent system here. So the support is from SAP Solution Manager version 7.10 with a minimum support package stack level of 4 or higher. So if the Solman is of this particular release, then we can integrate SAP HANA for remote monitoring through SAP Solman system. And there are certain prerequisites to be followed. Like for example, installation of HANA client software on the Solman system is necessary, and kernel version of the Solman system should be at least 720 with patch 100, and HANA DBSL database shared library should be installed with a minimum version of 720 and patch 110, and SAP host agent must be installed and should be running, and the release of host agent should be at least 720 with patch 84, and SAP solution manager diagnostic agent which is called as SMD agent, which is used for collecting the monitoring data from the HANA database and moving it to Solman system. This SMD agent is responsible for data collection for monitoring purposes. It collects the data and moves it to SAP Solman system for remote monitoring. So this agent must be installed. Preferably the latest version of the agent available in the market should be installed, and we should make sure it is running. And then from there we are good to go. This is the view of the DBA cockpit. Let me take you to this. Now let me explain how do we create a connection to the remote HANA database so that we can monitor or administer this HANA database. Firstly, we have to make sure all the prerequisites are met. So once the prerequisites are met, second is that we have to create a secondary connection to the HANA database. For that, we have to make an entry in the dbcon table. So for that, we have to navigate to transaction SM30, go to table dbcon, click on maintain. Yeah, this is how you can just click on new entries and create a new entry. Let me go to the present entry of DB connection HAN. Here HAN is the database to which this connection is already established. DBMS type is HDB, and the username connecting, which is the database username, and the password of this database username, and the connection info, which is the host name and the SQL port, 3 instance number and 15. So once this is saved, next step is we have to navigate to DBA cockpit transaction. So this is the home page. Sorry, this is the home page of the DBA cockpit transaction. Here HAN connection is already established. If you want to enable any new connection, you can click on add and give the required details. I will show you what are the details. Let me open the connection for HAN. This is the HAN connection details, and the status is active right now. So you can enable the connection selecting the remote database connection. So from this, do an F4 and choose the secondary connection that is established in SM30 dbcon table. HAN is the DB connection name that we have already created in dbcon. Select that, then you can enter the system data. You can give the database name, schema, host name, database release, what type of database system, save it, and the entry is created. And from then on, you can continue to use the DBA cockpit transaction. So once the connection details are saved, DBA Cockpit stores the information and tries to connect to the newly added system. And the SAP HANA system should appear in the system landscape toolbar. And then by clicking, if you double click on it, the available functionality is displayed, that is whether it is active or inactive. Now let us understand what are the different functionalities available with DBA Cockpit. Yes, we know that DBA Cockpit offers similar functionalities in comparison with SAP HANA Studio. That is with respect to administration activities only. So firstly, we see that from monitoring point of view, you can use different sections here. First is current status, performance is the second one, then configuration, jobs, diagnostics, and also use system information. As I said in SAP HANA Studio explanation, system information is a set of SQLs. Again, here it gives a set of SQLs and also certain information collection for system performance analysis. And finally, the documentation. So, firstly, about monitor, where we check the current status. So, here the current status monitor provides as an overview of the statuses of most important database resources. For example, statuses of the disk space and physical memory, status of the services, that is different component services, and the time at which the database was last started, current alerts, memory and CPU consumption, disk consumption, memory and CPU consumption from the perspective of the operating system as well. And yeah, as I said, disk consumption for disk space as well. If in case of a multi-node, it gives disk space consumption on a particular host as well. And we should note that even if the database is not available, the status section, that is under current states, the overview section is still available. And we have a jobs section also where we can schedule certain background jobs, that is to run any jobs in the background automatically without manual intervention. You can schedule a job for backup, regular backups to run at particular timestamps that we want. So using the DBA planning calendar, which is the most important option in DBA Cockpit, which is not available in SAP HANA Studio. So this automatic setting of background backup triggering is not available with SAP HANA Studio, but available with DBA Cockpit. We can also set the recurrence of the backup triggering. Now moving on to performance section, we can analyze performance data of the database system using this performance warehouse section. And as a prerequisite, a SAP Solvent system with solution manager diagnostic enablement is required here. And this section basically collects information from the statistics server, which provides an overview of the tables in schema note slash sys slash statistics. I'll repeat, slash sys slash statistics is the schema name, uh, uh, in which the statistics server collects the information in the tables. These tables contain data that is useful for analyzing system performance as a whole. Next is about configuration. We can also view an overview of the configuration files, that is different ini files like global.ini, indexserver.ini, nameserver.ini. All those ini files can be viewed here. And as I said, jobs calendar, you can have a central calendar or a DBA planning calendar. DBA is the database administration planning calendar, where you can schedule any background jobs, DB related jobs to run without any manual intervention. Backup is one such example, and also some sort of consistency checks on the database can also be triggered using the DBA backup calendar. For example, if the system is not being used during the night time, we can make sure a particular job runs in the night time by scheduling it using the DBA planning calendar. Moving on to next section, that is diagnostics. This diagnostic node comprises of different sections like audit log, missing tables and indexes, uh, explain, SQL editor, tables views, and it offers traces, that is in the diagnosis files, and traces like SQL DBC trace, database trace. So we can have an holistic view into all this information where audit log would give us a DBA audit log records of all actions uh, mm, which are done for making any changes to the database. For example, any reconfiguration of the services or even start stop of the database. Coming to missing tables and indexes, which shows the differences between the database in the SAP system and the ABAP dictionary. And coming to explain shows the execution plan for select, insert, update, or delete statements that is run in the database using the SQL console or the HTTP SQL command line tool. And coming to SQL editor, again, you can see the SQL editor to execute the SQL statements, basically used for executing different SQL statements, and tables and views, where you can display a table view, a view or a monitoring view as well. And coming to diagnosis files, as I said, this is basically used when the HANA database is offline. That is when the database cannot be reached using the SQL connection through the SQL port. SAP Start SRV will serve as the source for connecting to the database in the diagnosis mode, where we can see some of the diagnosis files for troubleshooting purpose. And coming to SQL DBC trace, which can be used for activating, deactivating, and analyzing the SQL DBC trace, and similarly for database trace, where we can activate this trace or deactivate, and obtain the trace and do an analysis on that. Also check logs on the database present. Next is about system information, as I said, which would give us information about connections, any open connections, open transactions, and statistics of these connections, and provides information about caches created by the SAP HANA database. Caches, for example, total size column shows the size of the available caches. Once we navigate under caches, there is a total size column which gives the size of the all the caches which are available, and query cache, which is about SQL statements executed, and you can also view the large tables present in the HANA system. This is basically helpful in analyzing the performance and system dimensions. You can see table sizes in main memory, the delta sizes, and the fastest growing tables. And finally, the SQL workload gives an holistic view of different SQL statements executed. Now that we have understood how DBA Cockpit helps us in administering and monitoring the SAP HANA database, and how do we enable this remote database connection for using the DBA Cockpit in the AS ABAP systems, that is, for example, in the Solman system, what are the prerequisites, and how to enable the connection after the prerequisites are met, and how to use DBA Cockpit. So overall, now we have understood how SAP HANA Studio, how STB SQL command line tool, how DBA Cockpit serves in administration activities. Now let us know a little bit about differences between HANA Studio and the DBA Cockpit tools. As we studied that HANA Studio and DBA Cockpit offers similar functionalities with respect to administration and monitoring, but there are a few differences between HANA Studio and DBA Cockpit, where HANA Studio has certain advantages and DBA Cockpit has certain advantages over the other. From administration point of view, yes, you can start stop the HANA database, do backup and recovery, user and role management, you can configure changes in the HANA Studio. Whereas if you come to DBA Cockpit, you can only schedule backups and do the configuration changes in the INI files. But you cannot start stop the HANA database and you cannot do the recovery. But backup is possible in DBA Cockpit. As I said, using the DBA planning calendar, you can create a job to trigger the backup, but recovery is not possible. Now, moving on to monitoring, we can integrate all SAP HANA databases in the landscape, which is possible. But in DBA Cockpit, this has to be done manually. But possible automatically from SLD as well. We have to enable the SLD connection first prior to integrating the HANA database. And next point would be like a detailed view of specific areas is possible in the HANA Studio. And similarly in DBA Cockpit also, this is possible. But it offers an additional option where you can use the performance warehouse infrastructure of the Solman. We can integrate the HANA system for using the performance warehouse infrastructure. And coming to alerting section, we can alert for critical situations and also check these alerts. We can enable the alerting and also check the alerts. And the same functionality is available in DBA Cockpit as well. And adjustment of alert thresholds to customer needs is possible with HANA Studio, whereas that is not possible with DBA Cockpit. And email notification functionality is available with HANA Studio, but DBA Cockpit does not offer email notification for any alerting purpose. But a DBA Cockpit offers an additional functionality like integration into Solvent Manager E2E, end-to-end alerting infrastructure. As I said, it offers different infrastructures like monitoring, end-to-end alerting infrastructure, performance warehouse infrastructure. So this has advantages of using DBA Cockpit over HANA Studio. And coming to tracing section, we have options for changing tracing levels in HANA Studio. Similarly, in DBA Cockpit also we can display the traces. Yes, that is possible in DBA Cockpit as well. But we can merge trace files of different database services and also from different database hosts and view them in one shot, whereas that option is not available with DBA Cockpit. So this was about differences between HANA Studio and DBA Cockpit. HANA Studio has lot many options in comparison with DBA Cockpit. Apart from admin, it offers modeling environment and development environment, debug environment, and data provisioning environment. Whereas DBA Cockpit does not offer all that. But from admin point of view, yes, it offers similar functionalities in comparison with HANA Studio. But yes, few are possible with DBA Cockpit and few are not. Like for example, performance warehouse infrastructure um, for alerting and planning the background execution of backup. Whereas HANA Studio offers certain other functionalities like email notifications, and you can merge the trace files and display in a single file, which is not available in DBA Cockpit. And user role management is not available in DBA Cockpit but available in HANA Studio. So this stands as the differences as of now, but going ahead we might see more development into DBA Cockpit and also into HANA Studio for helping the administrators for doing most of the admin and monitoring activities in either of the tools. So with this, we have come to the end of this topic. So after learning about this topic, next would be doing operations on the HANA database, which will be taken care in the next topic.